everyone, and welcome to today's episode on smart building and cybersecurity. I'm so delighted to be joined today by Director of Sales and Marketing at Dextra, Maxine Morrison. Maxine brings a diverse skill set and 20 years of expertise in all facets in the real estate industry. Her passion to solve problems and strategic thinking is known to turn good ideas into great results. She has led complex negotiations, maximizing gross margins and dominating markets. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Harsha.
Thank you, Maxine. But before we begin, I would love to hear about your career path.
Sure. Well, when I started my career in contract furnishings industry, I always knew I wanted to learn about all the aspects of real estate. After I gained leadership experience, I then became a licensed and an entrepreneur in commercial, residential, and rural. In that time, I learned how to do ROIs, feasibility studies, rezoning for new development, contract and lease negotiations. And then over the course of my career, the one constant was still and is still business development and marketing. By taking on leadership roles within the workplace consulting, brokerage, property management, and now third-party integrated facilities management, my career has touched many diverse and complex real estate projects. I'm proud to say through mentors and my own tenacity, I gained a diverse skill set through becoming a trusted real estate advisor for my clients that I serve. I can now only take those learnings and do my best to pass it on to somebody else.
Wow, this is great and truly an inspirational career. Today's podcast is special as we are ending 2020 with this episode. So it's about COVID-19 and its impact on real estate. As we all know, the global health crisis poses a set of unique challenges and burdens. And with working world move to work from home, mandates has impacted economy and real estate sector. Each property, be it a commercial, residential, healthcare, or even a store, faces unique challenges. So what are some of the immediate challenges that you are seeing in the CRE?
There's quite a few in different industries for sure. But one of the ones that comes to mind is we need to rethink how we're managing and maintaining our properties. Safety is paramount. And cleaning was typically the last to be budgeted and the lowest price often won. Cleaning is now on the top of the list. And if you choose based on the lowest price, you're often cutting corners and putting everyone in your buildings at risk. At the same time, where are you going to find the money? You know, that's the biggest question that owners and operators are struggling with right now. We know we need to get higher quality workmanship, but where is the money coming from? So a lot of people are taking that time right now to rethink that. Also, they're trying to stay ahead of the curve on what the new normal may bring. It's not just about cleaning, but how often are we changing our HVAC filters or cleaning and upgrading our equipment that runs our buildings? Prior to COVID, many of us would say we were sick because of air conditioning. That's because property managers, owners are not updating and maintaining as often as they should. But they do follow manufacturing and city codes, but it's clearly not enough. Another key challenge during and post-COVID will be to retain tenants and still get paid for their rent. Understanding how your tenants are feeling, whether they're feeling safe, what they really need at this time is a key. Also, what will entice their employees to want to come back to work. Some will have to, and others will have a choice. Collaboration with your staff and external subject expert matters and clients will be key to finding solutions, as each building and client are unique.
Yes, and with physical distancing and other safety measures and the other behavioral changes, so it is directly impacting the people and how the people are interacting with the physical space. So, and like you said, majority of this is dependent on the recovery process. Like all the asset classes are facing hurdle in the recovery process, and some may even experience change, and the will have to adapt to new behavior when people will shift from work from home to office. So in your opinion, which asset class will emerge most quickly from the current crisis and which will lag?
Well, I think we can all agree that the retail sector has been hit the hardest. And it's also not been hit by COVID, but it was hit prior years through online purchasing. So those two things combined have been devastating for the industry, no question. I believe retail has been adjusting well with curbside pickup and a surge to establish easy to use online purchasing platforms. But we all still need to touch, try on, and feel the quality. Customers are key, and companies that make it easy to buy and return items will be the ones that stand at the end. But then there's hotels. I mean, we all forget kind of about hotels, don't we? Hotels are being hit really, I think, even harder than the small business or retail owners. And now they are bigger organizations that have a lot more money behind them to sustain issues like this, comparatively to a small business retail owner. But I think it'll take the longest to rebuild. International tourism is non-existent. For people to get comfortable flying again, same thing like 9/11, it's going to be a challenge. People don't trust other people's healthcare systems as much as their own. And that's true all over the world. We all just feel ours is the best, right? Whatever country you're in. And trusting the immunization that's happening, how effective that is, and trusting each government's immunization that's applied, it's going to take a while. We're still very limited in spaces of events that we can do and how many people can be together in one space. People are doing day trips, but they're not doing overnights. So it's going to take years for this to really recover. And that's true for the airport industry as well, all aviation industry. I'll lump them into that as well. I'm hoping, the comfort level will rebound quite back, and there'll be only a select few that will still be having challenges emotionally and really emotional to get over the fact of what this has done to all of us over this past year and potentially 2 years that we'll be going through. Because I don't know when the end is happening. I am certainly not in the healthcare industry to have that magic ball, and I don't think anybody really has it just yet, but I do think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, which is a good thing. But the industrial remains to be relatively untouched through the pandemic. Small bay properties may be challenged depending on where they fit in the supply chain. Our reliance on global supply chain is now very evident and has put Canada's economy at risk for survival. Just look at the issues with hand sanitizers and masks and vaccinations. With organics, we have focused towards local and Canadian before COVID. Now it's even more vital to have a diverse national supply chain. But then we get into remote workforce. A remote workforce that at one point was a nice to have or seen as a privilege or very specific to a role, maybe somebody that traveled a lot for business. Now it's a necessity, and we think we have adapted well and fast. However, shortcomings are usually not known until it's too late. As sales funnels dry up and productivity outputs are no longer accepted as okay, executive and investors have adjusted expectations, but only for now. We also have seniors and long-term care housing. And, seniors and long-term care housing are finally seen as many that have their families in these homes have known for years, unkept and unsafe. Typically outside of acute and long-term care facilities, when this happens, lives are not at risk. Just building costs of ownership and longevity are. You can always rebuild a building, but you cannot bring back a life. So there's some major changes within all of these sectors that are ultimately going to drive whether or not companies are sustainable going forward, and how willing and where they're getting their pivots from and how fast they pivot will be very important going forward.
Yes, and you brought the point, like real estate is not only about the key asset classes that we classify, industrial or retail, like the issue that you brought for the care homes, that should also be taken care when we are planning or when we are developing strategies. And like retail recovery, it's a mixed, because if it's grocery or gas, healthcare, they will emerge strongly, but others, they are still lagging, and have suffered a massive, like a massive hit. Same goes with office and industrial. Also, it's a mixed, if we consider warehouse, distribution centers, or the last mile delivery services. So it's kind of a mixed impact we are seeing there. But yes, together it needs to be a holistic approach, not only focusing on the industrial residential, but other forms of real estate as well.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, and to lay the groundwork and to deal with not only the short term, but in some of the cases the permanent changes for the industry after the crisis. Leaders are devising strategies and are even changing the course of action. So how leading real estate owners and operations are navigating the crisis?
Well, I've seen many implement pandemic high touch cleaning. I think that was the most common thing that people did immediately. But then since then, they've been upgrading to HEPA filtration systems and taking on renovations since the traffic is much lower than it's ever been and could ever, you never want it to be that low ever again. But COVID may have forced the issues, but we have an opportunity now to restructure our capital plans to either move them forward or find money. And if you don't take the effort to either restructure or find some money to do these things, if not taken, you can be left behind, as I mentioned before. There's a saying in real estate, you need to spend money to make money, and this is one of those times. But government needs to be part of the solution. I think they have been to a certain point. Sometimes they've not really pinpointed exactly where the greatest need is. But I do think this is a environment that we are all learning through, and there's no right or wrong answer. Just doing something is important, and I think they've been doing that. But I think going forward, they really need to help real estate owners with loans that are 0% interest, and grants, depending on the size of the company. Grants you don't have to pay back are really important just to surge into the economy. I think is something that is important. So, but I do think that most publicly traded companies are holding strong. However, private organizations are waiting to see the fallout of the lost income. Many may need to sell or restructure if they cannot get access to funds to make the necessary changes to maintain and attract tenants and patrons.
Yes, and it's not only the traditional or the economic approach. Like you said, it's more of a tenant and a customer driven, plus the use of technology. Like you mentioned, the use of touchless sensors. So this is the time to innovate and try new technologies that can help not only the spread of virus, stop the spread of virus, but also how it can increase the efficiency of the building. So one key takeaway for our audience before we sign off.
Sure. Post-COVID, I imagine there will be some that will not feel safe, as we mentioned before, to go back to the office, and some that will not wait or some that will not or cannot wait to leave the quiet and the chaos that they might live in. I think the key is for real estate owners and operators to upgrade their space and equipment now while occupancy is low. Before we upgraded for health in our environment, now that was seen as a nice to have, but now we are doing it for health and safety of the humans. And creating touchless environment, as you mentioned before, Harsha, is key to moving the buildings forward to what's necessary for the next 10 years and beyond. And always was there, but it was seen more necessary for the people with active limitations. Now, finally, it has been seen necessary for all. How we did it before is in the past, finding our new way forward is really, really important. That'll be unique for every single company, every single client within those buildings, every single tenant. It can't be one fits all kind of scenario. So talking at all levels of the organization of what's working, what's not before COVID and during and after COVID is really important. Looking for the gaps, asking questions, listening to the people without the titles. They often know what's needed before owners and operators know.
Yes, absolutely, because they are the end users and they are the one who run the building. So yes, and you rightly pointed, innovation is the key, and this is the right time to innovate. So thank you, Maxine. Thank you for sharing those insights. And for those who are listening in, have a great holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you.